It's my pleasure to welcome Raquel Chole to the Springs Are Everywhere podcast. She is the president and CEO of Global Leadership Resources. It's a leadership development company, and Raquel's passion is involved in leadership development, and that comes first and foremost from her time in the spring industry. So for more than 20 years, she's worked at a global development at an automotive component maker that served all makes and models of cars. And in addition, she's been a regular contributor to Springs Magazine. So in my time as editor, we worked a lot together on projects. So Raquel, it's nice to welcome you to the podcast today.
Thanks, Gary.
Well, let's get started. I want to talk about leadership training. And Raquel, why is that so important, especially in the manufacturing space?
Well, when you think about what we do as metal formers and spring makers, we have responsibility for so much in the world. The whole world depends on us to make their cars go, to keep seatbelts buckled, to protect us in an accident with the headrest, to make the ice in our freezers for the ice machines, to be the spring in the recliner of our easy chair, to be the plate under our toilet. We have so much responsibility, and everyone down the line has to understand that responsibility, right? Because you're the guy making the spring that's going to keep someone's baby in the car in an accident. What if it's your grandbaby? What if it's your child, right? So you want to make sure that you are doing the things as a leader that's necessary to produce excellent parts with zero defects and to, well, we make everything run, don't we?
Yeah, and Raquel, what are some of the critical management skills that today's leadership professionals must possess?
I think that communication is the top of everything. If you can communicate well, it eliminates things like redos. It helps everyone get along better too. I think that another aspect is understanding customer focus in terms of internal customers and external customers, right? So if I make a spring and then I send it to the heating department, I want it to arrive in a way that I would like to receive it. If I send a pallet of parts to the finishing department, I want them to come in a way that will please the finishing department because they can do things really efficiently because of the way I package them to get them ready for the next step. And then it rolls down too with our outside customers, right? So if I'm pleasing my internal customers, chances are I'm also following everything I need to do quality-wise to please our external customers.
So Raquel, we know that our industry is maturing. There's a lot of older workers who are aging out, a lot of tribal knowledge there. So do most companies have a plan to develop their young leaders?
There's a couple of factors there. The first one is we all get excellent technical training in the spring industry, right? If you're going to run a machine, if you're going to make tools, whatever you're going to do, you probably get a fabulous basis of training. You probably have done some apprenticeship. You've probably been around the experts that have been doing it for 50 years and are the best in the world, right? But then you become a rock star at that, right? So you get promoted and now you're not going to make springs anymore. And as, say, the owner of the company, I don't want you to keep gravitating back to that thing that you were a rock star with. I want you to make people into rock stars. I want you to delegate the authority. I want you to see that people get training and let them expand and move up in the company. Because when you delegate, it lets you move up in the company. So we want to make sure that things are being passed on. And I think the second factor is that COVID changed a lot of young personalities from being what a lot of us can understand to being something that's harder to understand. How to communicate with this age level, how to make them productive, how to keep them engaged and not bored, how to make sure that phones aren't a problem in the workplace. So I think that that's where we need our supervisors, managers, directors, and executive team to become super good at managing this generation, because like it or not, they are going to populate our companies.
So kind of begs the question of how can leaders improve their engagement with employees?
I think understanding how to lead, you probably have some natural inclinations if you're already in a leadership position, if you're in a management position. But now you have to learn how to delegate. Delegating takes practice. You have to practice the skill and try it over and over until it comes very naturally. You might have been promoted over your best buddy who you used to eat lunch with, and now you're in charge of telling him what to do. Sometimes it doesn't go over too well. So how do you learn how to develop a productive team with the guys that used to be your buddies? How do you keep things on a good trajectory? And so you have to learn how to develop good teams. You have to learn how to lead through change. So when new technology gets introduced, you have to have the practice at skills that teach you how to bring forward new technology so that people accept it, want it, use it.
So, Raquel, is there a difference between training for managers and supervisors?
Sure. We all get better at things as we go on, right? We layer it on. If I'm training a lead or a supervisor, I might teach them the same things that I'm teaching a manager, but the manager's going to understand it at a deeper level. So, for example, what I do with my enrollees that come to my leadership classes, I ask them to take the best idea they learned from class and to do an action plan. Now, typically, the action plan for a supervisor or a lead might be something that brings an ROI of, say, $20,000 a year to the company, or improves company morale, improves my ability to delegate by X%. Now, when I get to the manager level, I would expect an exponential increase on that. They should be telling me projects that are much more complicated and have a higher return on investment. When we get to the director and executive level, of course, that increases. So very often I'll see in the same class a supervisor who's giving me a project that brings in, say, $25,000 a year to the company. Whereas the manager has an idea that's going to net $100,000 to $200,000. And then at the highest level, the management is the directors and executive team should have things that are costing in the millions for ROI.
So looking at the future, again, of manufacturing professionals, those coming up through the ranks, those that we know they're coming, right? What are the critical skills that they should possess?
When you get promoted up the ladder, you start and you're an employee, right? And when you're an employee, you can just throw out a great idea. I have a fabulous idea. Let's do this. And then you don't have to do the research to find out if it's feasible. You don't have to find out if it costs money. You don't have to find out if it's going to please customers. The next level of management has to do that. And identifying to somebody who's just become a supervisor the skills that they need to start identifying those financial responsibilities is really important. Having a mentor in the place of a mentor, having classes that teach you how to value things, whether it's valuing it through return on investment, reduced cost, saved time, managing time and people. So all of those things, it takes time to learn those skills. As a regular employee, you typically don't have the strategic planning skills that someone who's been doing it for a little while has. So you want to start developing your strategic planning skills a little bit at a time. And any time as a manager, you can bring someone into that conversation of strategic planning that will help them because they'll start to grasp the concept. How do you make a decision? What are the steps involved in making a decision? Who do you have to consult? Can't you just go forward with something because you have a great idea? Not always. What's your customer focus? So we talked about two kinds of customer focus already. We talked about the people in the next service, so like secondary services or grinding or heating, something like that. And then also the customer, the outside customer is a customer. And so how do you understand your responsibility to them in terms of quality? Understanding that focus and what's expected of you, it's pretty key. How do you develop a productive team? You know, there's some people who are just good at it. They say, come with me, and there's a line behind them because they're great. But other people have a little trouble with that. So we have to teach them how to develop a productive team. These things mostly aren't innate. You have to learn them. You watch other people do it who are good at it, and then you learn from them, you emulate them, and then hopefully you gain some skills. You learn how to negotiate. And negotiation, you might think, is that just for a purchasing department? No, it's for everybody. You're a new supervisor, and 4 people ask you for Friday off. Where's negotiation there, right? You're going to have to negotiate. It's going to be tricky. 2 of those guys are your buddies you used to work with and really rely on you to say yes. So how do you negotiate your way through a situation like that? It takes skills. It takes practice. It takes developing scripts for yourself so that you practice what to say, how to deliver it. Maybe you practice on your boss so that you get some practice in, they give you some feedback, and you start to get better at it.
So I'm just going to close with a bonus question. You made a presentation to our symposium at Spring World, and it was on women in manufacturing. But I think a lot of your message was mentoring. Why is that so important?
You know, I do that workshop for many different industries. And the first one I did it for was executive women in agriculture. And when I got to the room, it was full, half of men and half of women, even though it was supposed to be targeted at women. The second thing I noticed was that a lot of the women in the room were over 50, and many were over 60, and some were over 70. And they were looking for mentors. So I think the takeaway for me was that we never stop looking for guidance. And if we really want to be good at what we do, if we want to get better at what we do, we're always going to seek guidance from someone smarter, better, faster than we are. But then you also have to pay it forward and mentor the people who are coming up. So I think it's kind of being mentored and mentoring side of the coin.
Wow, great ideas. I appreciate your time today. Tell us just your passion I can see for training and leadership development. So Raquel, how can people get a hold of you if they'd like to contact you?
Sure. My website is Crestcom Chicagoland. So CRESTCOM Chicagoland.com. And so it's very easy to access me that way. Or my first initial last name at Crestcom.com.
Raquel, thanks again. I appreciate your time, and we will hope that some folks will reach out to you
That'd be fantastic.
get some help.
Scary.